Hello and welcome to Affinity. We're going to create a starburst effect like this. The way it's normally done in camera is you wait for the sun to be just on the edge of something like this, like a building or a tree, and you set the aperture to be very narrow. So for example, in here, if I look at the metadata, which I can always go to Window and Metadata there, I will see here that I've got aperture of f20, so around that is the kind of thing that you want. You're also going to see with this, let's go a little bit closer to explore it, you can see there are a number of lines in here. In this case there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, double that, 18 lines around there. And that's got to do, there's quite a few because it's a reasonable lens. You know, it's a Sony, they are FE 24-70, f2.8. So that's the effect you're going to get around here. What else do we notice about this? Well, it's very white at the center, but then it springs out here and it starts becoming more orange. There are these bokeh effects here with kind of lens effects where you've got blobs like this of green. There's a couple overlapping. There's a curved one here, another curved one in there. And this is like a rainbow going across here. And there's another sort of strange square rainbow kind of rippled effect across there as well. So you get these kind of light effects from here. This line down here as well looks like there's a rainbow going across that. So that rainbow effect starts to be quite interesting in what you can perhaps do with it. So what I'm going to do in this video is we're going to do the basic starburst here, and then the next video we're going to look at doing these other additional effects that you can create in starburst type pictures. So we start from a picture, and this is the wrong picture to start from. The reason is the sun is up here, and so if you're going to put the starburst down here, then the sun is actually behind here, so all the lighting in the picture is going to be wrong. You could always correct it. You could darken this down here, lighten things under here, but it's a lot easier to start from a picture which has got the basics already there. So we'll use this one. So the sun's clearly over here, it's lighting up over here, and so we're going to put our starburst in here. So the question now is, where do we get the starburst from? You could sort of start painting things and so on, but it's easier to use shapes. And so I could down here, the basic bit of the starburst is a triangle. So I could put a triangle like this, I could copy those round in a circle, I could then blur things to get that soft effect, but that's a lot of work. So instead, let's undo that. And we'll go back in here. Well, the next one you could do is use the star tool. And if I draw that, I get a funny shape. But if I hold down Control and Shift, then it just comes out like that. And then I get the little red dots in there. If I pull those in, I get to a shape here. That's a curvy one, so I don't really want that. Control Z to that. Let's try the other one. And this is now, see, that one is now a nice angular one. So that's the one that I want. Up here, curved edges, I got points 5 here. There's a stroke round the edge of it, which means this is the outline of it. You may not want that, so if I click on there and then the little white circle, the red line through it, that removes the stroke, so it's effectively transparent. And I can set the points to however I want. However, in this, there's a slightly better way, because if you look at this original picture here, then if you look closer at it, you'd see this sort of very faint lines coming out from here as well. Just very faint, gives it a little bit more an effect. We'd kind of like to be able to do that kind of thing. And those lines as well, by the way, on this, you've got some lines, these lines are longer and some of them are a bit shorter. So what you could do in this, you could duplicate this, make a smaller one, put it on top, and do that kind of effect, but we're going to use a slightly different one. So I'm just going to right click and delete that, and if I right click here, and that's to use the double star tool. And the reason for that is Control Shift to bring this out. I've got longer and shorter points in here already. By the way, if you ever have clicked away from these, you've been doing something else and you want to get back to it, an easy way is just to click on the Move tool and let's double click it, and you can see there you've got all the controls at the top here, and you can also drag this one in here to get that finer star effect there. To blur it, you could put a Gaussian blur onto it there, but an easier way is to go to the FX here. So left click on that, click on the Gaussian blur here and the checkbox as well, and then turn up the blur to whatever you want. If you wanted even more, you could even type in here and put in a bigger number, just typing it in. So we can then position this where we want. Control Shift and with one of the corners to make it bigger. One thing to watch out for is these white lines along the edge, because if you're putting this here, just click on the hand tool for a moment, you can see you get this white line going up the edge. That looks rather odd, so you kind of want to avoid that. So it depends on where you're putting it, but in this case I would put it just slightly off there. I need a few more points than 5, so I'll bring this up to just where it looks right. I don't even look at the number up here, but that number there is probably okay. Look at again with this, and is that enough? Sometimes you do this and the blur is just, it's kind of blurred so much you can hardly see it, but then you can put that effect in as well. Now then, what we can do here as well is if I go to the fill colour there, leave that as white because that's the basic colour, but if I go to the stroke, let's put a stroke back in, but I'll put a colour here of orange. So I'll put like an orange colour in here. If you want a true orange, a tip with this is to get the red, green and blue just in a straight line, and that will give you orange. And what does this look like here? Again, it's kind of annoying, you have to click away from it, but that's not bad, isn't it? That's the line there. If you want to get those extra little sort of fine lines in there, a way to do that is to take this, duplicate it with Control J, so we've got another one here, then rotate it here about the axis, so I got this further one in here. Then I want to just double click it to get the line here, make this an even finer line, really fine here. Just click outside to see the effect, and you see that's a very, very faint effect. You even sort of take the opacity of that down so it's only just showing on that. Then Control J to duplicate it again and rotate this one again. So click on the Move tool and go to the curvy bit there so the cursor changes slightly, and turn that around a bit more there, and let's click outside of that. There we go. So we get those sort of like just disturbances effectively around there. So there's a couple more things to do here. First is to check the starburst we got against the reference we're using, which is, let's move in a bit closer to that, this one. And I think what we got here is the starburst here. These lines are fairly strongly defined as compared to this. This is somewhat weaker, so we need to do a little bit of work to improve that. So I think the first thing to do is just to reduce the blur. So I just go to the FX there and just bring this blur down, and see it immediately becomes a lot clearer. So let's keep that there, and let's compare that again. So yeah, we've got white in the middle and some orange further around there. That's okay. And is that orange pretty good out there? Yeah, I think so. We could actually put a little bit more there, and a way of doing this is to duplicate this, so Control J on this one here. Then if we go to edit that and we remove the fill, so I just have a blank fill, so I just got the stroke on top there, so I'm increasing that. And I could actually increase the colour as well there, so I go to that colour there to strengthen that colour there, make it a little bit darker, holding down the Shift key and dragging the bottom one there down, and see the middle one it goes with it, so it just goes in proportion to it. So there, if we look at that now and take this one off, there we go. So now that's a lot stronger there, but we can do, it's probably too strong, so now we can play with the opacity there. So we're adding that orange on that there, and I think what we could do here as well is with these two, because I want to do this together, is to, there's too much, it's too strong over the stone. So I'm going to put a mask on those two, click on one, shift click the other, and Control G to group it, and then put a mask on that. So just click on the mask layer, go to mask, and then paint black on that. The colours here have changed, so hit the letter D on the keyboard, gets it black to black and white, and get a paintbrush here, and I'm just going to paint down these here a bit. So what have I got here? Opacity 22, that's probably alright, maybe a little bit more, maybe around the 30ish, and hardness 0, and I just need to bring this down, so I'm just painting on this. I'm just weakening those there, just where there's a bit of stone, so these are a little bit more faded, so it doesn't contrast out too much over those areas, which lets it be stronger to give more contrast over the light area. And while I'm at this, I can paint a little bit into here just to bring back just the faint light there from that actual bit of church there. So let's compare again. So that's that kind of stronger one. It doesn't have to be exactly like it, but I think that's a lot stronger effect. If I'm still a little bit unsure, I can always go back here to that second one and look at the blur on that. If I bring that down a bit, it starts turning into a line at some point. So yeah, I think that's about okay there. Let's keep that. You can play with this. And if that orange is coming down a little bit too much there as well, I can put a mask just onto that one here and put a mask on here. See the way you just keep on just kind of refining it here. And I can turn down with the paintbrush there, just make this a little bit bigger here. And so I'm just masking off the orange outline we added there, so the middle bit here stays more white and the orange is more further out into the beams going out there. Right, I think that's enough. We can play with this forever, and I'll just bring that back together, click the top one, shift click the bottom one, hit Control G, and then we'll just call this Starburst, Sunburst. There we go, that's it. And thank you very much for watching, and in the next one we're going to look at the bokeh, how we can do the ones here, these strange bits of light on here created by the lens effects. And so I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.